I think A Tale of Our Time is something that resounds in someone and can have them think about what their life is about.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and I'm joined today by my guest, Julie Kawamura. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So, Julie, is there anything that you'd like to say to introduce yourself?
So most of my life I've lived in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It wasn't until my 30s, actually, that I decided to start living abroad, which a lot of people do that right out of college.
Yeah.
You know? And one of the reasons why I took this huge leap of faith, I guess you could say, to find myself in a foreign country was partially because of what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That makes me even more excited. Now, listeners, I actually am really excited today for a number of reasons. One of them is because despite it being in my intro, I have yet to do I say comic, though usually we might call this a graphic novel or a manga. And two, because this is a series that has always like floated around in my periphery and I've never been able to like just read for whatever reason. Okay. So Julie, what story have you brought for us today?
Okay, well, the story that's my passion is the manga series Battle Angel Alita.
And that's by Yukito Kishiro.
Yeah.
First published, we just found out, in 1990.
Yes, that was my, I'm going to basically give up my age. It was like my final year in high school.
Yeah. Well, I think those ones touch you, like, right, the books, the series, the media that you're imbibing as you end any period of your life, like high school or college especially, I think really have an opportunity to make an impact on you. Because I know the series that I was reading at the time, like, did the same for me.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, it makes a lot of sense to me that you encountered this right at the end of high school, and then it like has continued to remain important to you until this day.
Yes, exactly. It's touched me for quite a while.
You know what? Why don't we get into it? Do you want to give us a short summary?
Okay. Battle Angel Alita is a graphic novel. I think there's 7 or 8 books. It's mostly about the main character. In English versus Japanese versions, though, her name is different, just FYI. So Alita, the main character, she's basically found and does not know her identity. The premise of the story is basically she's a cyborg, or mostly a cyborg.
Yeah.
Only her brain basically is alive, and and certain parts of her.
Right.
And so in finding herself, she wants to find out about her past. And in finding out about her past, a lot of enemies come up. And she finds out she has like this special fighting gift. And throughout all of the series, it's nothing but heartache and turmoil and fighting and just, climbing up that mountain type of situations with her. She has to kind of reinvent herself or find herself. So kind of like a small child growing up. And eventually at the very end, she has to, she kind of has to sacrifice her greatest gift, I guess you could say. I'm not going to give it away.
Give it away. What is it? I want to know.
Oh, she has to basically sacrifice herself in order to save basically most of humanity.
What would you say is one of the most, because in a manga, especially something like this, I think there's a lot of like mini arcs that happen.
Yes.
So what do you think is one of the arcs, if you could summarize that touched you the most, or that meant the most to you?
Okay, well, one of her main arcs is the man who finds her. His name is Dr. Ido, Ido. He basically becomes like this father figure for her, and he wants to protect her, dress her up in pretty dresses, things like that. And she's basically fighting back with him constantly, and saying that that's not who she is, even though he wants her to be that way. She says that this is not how my life is. So she's constantly fighting to the point where they basically become estranged and separated.
Oh, no.
And then throughout her trials, she revisits him, like she finds him again, to only find out that he doesn't remember her at all. And he actually finds an actual like non-cyborg girl who he can...
Like who can make his little princess. Or
like a little
his
princess daughter, exactly. And she feels that heartache of realizing that it's something that she lost. You know? And it was just extremely painful to follow that and to find out about that. Well, during her trials of fighting and things like that, she always kind of knew that he would be there in the back of her mind, and then coming back to it and then realizing that he's actually forgotten. Like literally his memory was erased.
So it wasn't a choice or anything like that.
No,
like
it
something
wasn't a
came through
choice.
and was like, you are not going to remember this girl. Like she's gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was technically his choice, but it was because of some other huge trauma that he could not physically handle. So in order to erase the memory of that trauma, he had to erase all his memories.
So he made the choice to give up Alita.
Yeah.
So that he could like find healing.
Yeah, within himself and his soul.
And then Alita comes back and she's like, oh, I never really thought that I would like lose you.
Yeah, exactly.
Or rather, like, I guess that would be an interesting topic, but to like mourn the living or lose someone without them dying.
Yeah, exactly. So like thinking about that made me think about my father, who's also going through something similar because he's starting to have dementia.
Oh, that's really hard.
Yeah. So having to understand that feeling of loss, I guess.
Yeah. My grandmother had dementia as well. It's a really tough thing to have to work through with people that like you know and love and are really close to you. Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like it hit like really close to home. And it already has made me even more want to read the book. So why don't you tell us, going back to that, a little bit more about your first experience with this story? You said for you that was in high school.
Yes, it started in high school. It was very brand new actually back then. So it actually hadn't really been made completely into English. It was more like a fan sub. So I had to find
translations.
Like weird translations.
Yeah.
But my first exposure to it was basically seeing various photos or drawings of her. And that was basically what hit home for me. It was just the fact that how she was dressed, and it was kind of very cyberpunk. And it was from the first book where she basically had to paint her face with blood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was when the dog got killed, which was really sad.
There's a dog that gets killed.
Sorry.
Oh, my God.
So it was like her kind of like her pet dog. And then because of that, she just not consciously painted her face with this particular
She's like
mark.
ready for war.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like, it was to show that she basically switched off her nice side and then changed into like what she used to be, which she didn't remember, and just became like this super fighting machine. So it just kind of struck home with me.
Yeah.
Like that whole like switching off and changing your physical self to become something else.
I think especially as a high schooler, like one thing that I always liked about Battle Angel Alita, she always like looks cool. So like just looking at pictures of her and like the images of it, like especially as like a high school kid, like I could definitely see like I want to know more. Like,
and she was like, and she's so petite and tiny, and you wouldn't imagine that she could like beat up these like 6'5", 800-pound people.
Right. Especially like in comics, like the people that tend to be like really roided out.
So, and she was one of the first few female like protagonists in these types of manga series. So that's another reason why too. Like I was really drawn to it because
like in the forefront of a shonen manga.
Yes, exactly. So she was one of the few actual like, not just all like I want to kill people type of manga protagonist. She actually was trying to find a soul and a heart and still try to find something good.
Yeah. And I guess I forgot to say, I usually like to decode the language I use. For those who don't read, a lot of manga is still, I think, pretty typically broken up into two very large genres. One of them that's called shonen, which is typically for boys, but involves a lot more of like fighting, battle, adventure stuff.
Yes.
And the other one that is called shoujo manga, which is typically marketed to girls, which is a lot more like slice of life, romance, and kind of dramatic stories.
Unrequited love.
Right. It's kind of like the breakdown between like adventure versus drama. But there's a lot of like nuance in between those two.
Oh, yes.
So anyway, Alita was one of the first female leads in one of these like shonen manga, which really does matter because I liked to read those stories a lot. They're adventure stories, so it's fun.
Yes, exactly. And then, they have like those special named power moves and things like that. So having a girl say those special named power moves was actually really quite exhilarating.
So what made this book the series stand out so much to you? Like, what was the meaning that you found in it?
Well, obviously one is that I can relate to being like this girl, right? Obviously, she's a very small, petite, black-haired girl.
Physically, you're physically. I'm all there with you, girl.
Yeah, so it's about this young girl who basically has to find herself. And she's at first really afraid to see who she really is. You know, so in a lot of ways they decide she's thinking that as much as she wants to find out about herself, she's afraid of what she's going to find. So in the end, though, she realizes that it doesn't matter who she is or what she is inside as long as she can come to terms with it.
And you said like this inspired you to move.
Yes.
At, like, I guess we could say like an age that's later than most other people do.
Yeah. So I went to university, and after this, and I've been always like enraptured with this comic, but I got sidetracked. And then throughout the years, realizing that I felt like I wasn't really doing what I wanted to do or going anywhere. I kept coming back to this comic and realizing that in order for me to find my true self, I am going to need to do something drastic, meaning I need to leave this comfortableness, which is what she did initially as well too. Like she had just lost this boy that she loved, Yugo, and she realized that she's not this pretty princess girl. She's actually like a fighter, and she needs to find out more about herself. So she
leaves her comfort zone.
Yeah, she has to leave the security of the scrapyard and the people that she knows in order to not only protect them, but to find out more about herself.
Yeah, it's really cool to have like this really concrete example that was like, so I did the same thing, and I was like, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go try living somewhere else.
Yeah, and my pet project, I guess you could say, that I've been working on for all this time since I've been like living abroad. That's the mural or the picture that I showed you that I've been currently painting.
Yeah.
It's something that's been an ongoing project since the decision that I decided to move. So that's basically like
that's the project.
Yeah, that's the project. So hopefully I can finish it before I move back.
Yeah, we still have some time, so that would be so cool. I guess we just got two more questions. Number one, so that's a lot of like your personal meaning. What do you think makes Battle Angel Alita a tale of our time? Like what meaning do you think other people can pull from it?
Well, as I said at the beginning, I feel that a tale of our time, to have something that's a tale of your time, it's something that you can look within yourself to find meaning and to use it to, I guess, better yourself. And I feel that in this story, the tale is basically to look at yourself, whether you see ugly parts, beautiful parts, or
maybe parts you don't even know very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like for her, it was literally amnesia, but like for all of us, at least some point in life, I think we've had a moment where like you kind of look at yourself and you're like, I'm not sure. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know if I want to explore this part of myself. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Like there's a part of myself that I'm unfamiliar with.
Yes, exactly. And like there's a saying that was that's ongoing in that story, and it's on the mural or the picture that I painted. So she says that she accepts who she is no matter what, whether it's ugly or beautiful. She chooses to accept it. for whatever she finds. So the actual quote that's from the actual manga is, I walk in faith that we choose who we want to be and we grow into that identity, ugly or beautiful.
I love that. That is a really good, like, that's a good kind of bow on top of like, I think everything we've been talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So one last thing to ask you then, if you could give Battle Angel Alita your own one phrase subtitle, what would it be?
It's really hard. Battle Angel Alita, a story to find yourself.
Oh yeah. Or like,
I'm
what about if we use a quote you just said, like grow into who you want to be?
Yeah, okay.
Does that seem like it fits?
Or finding who
you want to be.
Yeah, finding who you want to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. Battle Angel Alita, finding who you want to be.
Yes, Battle Angel Alita, finding who you want to be.
Great. What a like surprisingly, a little surprising to me, like a surprisingly wholesome ending to something that's named literally Battle Angel.
Well, I mean, if you stick with the story, there's a lot of gruesome stuff, and but
so she's both.
Yeah,
she's both Battle and Angel.
Yes.
So thank you for joining me, Julie. And thank you to everyone else for joining us today on Radio Taiwan International. This has been Tales of Our Times. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, with my guest, of course, Julie Kawamura.
Yes, thank you so much. And it was great being here.
Yeah, we loved having you. So we have been discussing the story, Battle Angel Alita, Finding Who You Want to Be.
Yes.
A tale of our time. We'll see you next time.